Just hours ago, a federal judge in D.C. heard arguments in a case that has a major impact here in Florida. It's over who should be protecting our wetlands and enforce laws like the Clean Water Act. 10 Tampa Bay's Chris Hurst found homeowners caught in the middle.
Water vanished. The ground cracked open, and what appeared underneath stunned even seasoned experts. After Florida drained part of a wetland, biologists expected damage, but not discovery. What they found beneath the surface rewrote assumptions about what had been quietly shaping the ecosystem all along. Hidden life, unseen forces, and a specific presence buried in the mud-raised urgent questions no one anticipated. This isn't a story about drainage. It's about exposure, about what thrives unseen until the water is gone. And once revealed, it changes how we understand wetlands forever. The sudden reveal in drained wetlands. When a wetland is drained, the quiet world beneath the water suddenly bursts into an astonishing display of life and movement. Biologists visiting a recently drained section of the Florida Everglades expected to see only a few struggling fish caught in shrinking pools. Instead, they witnessed an entire ecosystem laid bare. Fish jammed thick into tiny puddles, hidden burrows exposed, and unexpected creatures revealed in shocking numbers. This dramatic, sudden reveal exposes the fragile balance between water, land, and life that most people never see. As the water level dropped to just inches deep, native species like largemouth bass and bluegill squeezed desperately into shrinking pools. But the real surprise was the abundance of armored catfish, invaders with tough bony plates that shield them from predators and even small alligators. These fish weren't just visible, they were everywhere, digging deep into the mud banks in burrows that made the landscape look like Swiss cheese. Where water once hid its presence, the drawdown revealed its true impact. The sight was both fascinating and alarming. Those burrows shattered the natural structure of the wetlands, making it difficult for native plants to take root and flourish. This disturbance alters the very fabric of the swamp, threatening the delicate ecosystems that depend on stable ground and clean water. The biologists realized immediately that the problem was larger and deeper than just surface-level water management. Time was critical. As the scorching sun beat down on these shallow pools, thousands of fish faced suffocation, trapped with diminishing oxygen and nowhere to escape. The smell of decomposing life could be detected from miles away, a grim reminder of how quickly conditions can deteriorate. Yet, armored catfish showed unusual resilience. They can breathe air briefly, allowing them to survive longer, while biologists came to their rescue. The scale of catfish invasions took researchers by surprise. The situation turned out to be much worse than they had imagined, and therefore, they had to act quickly. This revelation not only controlled measures, but also indicated the vast area that still needed to be worked on to bring back the natural balance. It was a problem of an ecological nature that could not be solved by the cheap and easy method of wetland refilling. Going deeper into the swamp, more fish were found. Underneath and in the mud was a dark world of animals that were changing the ecology in very rare ways. Some even called them mud monsters. And they were the ones who upset the scientists' perception of wetland life in Florida. Their presence called for new strategies to protect native biodiversity from unseen threats that had already established themselves in the water's cover. The drawdowns made it possible for scientists to observe all this vitality and disruption at once, thereby changing their approach to wetland restoration. They realized that every time water is taken away, there is a complex story that gets told, one that includes survival, invasion, and the resilience of a struggling environment. These unexpected scenarios gave a rare look behind the curtain at an ecosystem that responds to human actions in real time. The researchers took their time in collecting their data, as well as during the process of saving the animals that were stuck. However, they knew that this was only the beginning of their work. The information that had been revealed would extend through the future efforts of the restoration of the Everglades. But to grasp the full picture, we need to step back and look at the history of how these wetlands were shaped and transformed by human hands. Florida's wetland history and drainage. The story of Florida's wetlands is inseparable from the history of human intervention that transformed much of the landscape. In the late 19th century, what is now the Everglades was widely seen as wasted space, swampy, difficult land thought best drained to make way for farms and development. Early pioneers like Hamilton Diston invested heavily in draining water from river basins, setting in motion a century-long campaign that reshaped the region drastically. By 1948, the government had taken over this effort, constructing an extensive system of canals, pumps, and levees known as the Central and Southern Florida Project. Its goals were practical: prevent flooding and provide water for growing populations and agriculture. But the unintended consequences were devastating, with over half of the original wetlands lost or damaged. These changes disrupted natural water flows and impacted countless species reliant on the slow-moving river of grass. As wetlands drained and transformed, wildlife adapted in unexpected ways, even as many species declined or disappeared. The centuries of human interference created a patchwork of altered habitats, some natural and others man-made, each with different challenges and risks. Stormwater treatment areas were added to clean polluted water before it reached protected zones. But these artificial wetlands also became sites of complex ecological interactions. Contemporary drainage events provide an insightful view into a vast history of alterations in the environment and of ecological compromises made throughout the years. The sediments at the bottom of the lakes contain not just bits of living things and dormant seeds of plants from ancient times, but also many years of chemical poisoning in the form of phosphorus from fertilizers, farm remnants, and many other toxic substances that have been covered up with soil layers. It is as if every time scientists go to a drained wetland, they are stepping into a crime scene where the culprits have left their traces, and the only thing left is to decipher those traces, which they do with the help of modern technology. The restoration efforts, or the reclamation of land to its original condition, are ongoing. However, total recovery still seems far away. The idea of bringing back the wetlands of Florida to their 1800s state is a very distant dream, one that is constantly thwarted by the numerous infrastructural and residential developments that now block access to the vital land. Management nowadays is about keeping a balance between water and wildlife in the broken-up landscape that still exists, which is a tricky task requiring one to know both the history and the current situation. The past serves as a backdrop for the present, and the past is one reason why draining a wetland is such a simple act that triggers a chain of very dramatic and revealing events. It brings to light years of changes and developments that have been going on underneath the soil, while the landscape gives an impression of still suffering from human burden. It is a history that must be learned if the effective restoration and conservation strategies are to be developed and used. The understanding of how drainage has impacted the earth and its inhabitants gives a better appreciation of the remarkable finds that the biologists are still making. It underscores how intimately connected Florida's future is with the past, for every bit of soil and water has its own tale of survival and conflict. From these scars of history, hope springs the urgent need to address one of the most pervasive threats lurking beneath the water: invasive species burrowing deep. Among the hidden residents uncovered by drained wetlands, invasive species have proven particularly disruptive, especially armored catfish. These invaders are tougher and more resilient than native fish. Their bodies are armored with thick, bony plates, helping them defend against predators like birds and small alligators. But their true secret lies beneath the mud. They dig extensive burrow networks into wetland banks that go unnoticed when the water is high. When water levels are normal, these catfish remain hidden, their burrows concealed by the flowing ecosystem. But during drawdowns, their intricate tunnels are exposed, turning the wetland edges into Swiss cheese-like landscapes. This burrowing destroys the natural bank structure essential for native plant growth and soil stability. The resulting erosion and habitat damage threaten the fundamental balance of the swamp. The scale of these infestations surprised researchers. What were once thought to be localized groups turned out to be widespread pockets of invasive catfish, sprawling across drained areas. The persistence and density of these populations create formidable challenges for resource managers trying to restore native ecosystems. Invasive species control must extend beneath the water, not just focus on surface-level observations. This revelation also underscores the limits of current management practices. Simply refilling wetlands with clean water is not enough to recover from decades of ecological disturbance. Without addressing these deep invaders, restoration efforts may be continuously undermined. The catfish burrows symbolize a hidden battleground where native and invasive species compete for dominance. The invasive catfish can survive in harsh conditions thanks to their ability to breathe air for short periods, a rare adaptation for fish. This allows them to endure oxygen-depleted puddles and wait out threats while biologists attempt intervention. Their toughness makes rapid response essential. Otherwise, thousands of trapped fish can perish quickly once the water shrinks too far. This draws attention to the complex interplay of biological resilience and vulnerability in drained wetlands. Invaders thrive while natives struggle, shifting the ecological balance against natural biodiversity. Every discovery of such burrows fuels new strategies to locate and remove invasive species more effectively before they do irreversible damage. Beyond catfish, other invasive creatures have been found spreading beneath the water, each contributing to the reshaping and often degrading of wetland habitats. Their hidden presence complicates restoration but also provides valuable insight into why some recovery efforts falter. Success depends on digging deeper, both literally and figuratively, into the wetland's mysteries, recognizing that what lies beneath the surface can determine the health of the whole ecosystem. This growing understanding raises new questions about other secretive residents, like the elusive reptiles that have forged homes in the wetland shadows. The Burmese python's secret dens. When the water recedes in the deeper parts of the Everglades, the mysterious lives of some of its most elusive residents come into shocking view. During a restoration project in the Picayune Strand area, biologists discovered burrows that defied explanation. These were not homes of native animals, but of the infamous Burmese python. These giant snakes can grow up to 20 feet long and have become one of the most disruptive invasive species in the region. For years, they've stealthily preyed on native wildlife, their presence largely masked by dense vegetation and submerged waters. With high water levels concealing their movements, pythons remained hidden to both visitors and scientists alike. But the drawdown exposed their secret dens, muddy tunnels sprawling beneath the swamp's surface, revealing where these predators ambushed their prey and rested between hunts. Biologists from the United States Geological Survey quickly mobilized, seizing the rare opportunity to remove dozens of pythons without having to trudge through miles of tall grass and treacherous marshland. This haul marked a strong win for removal efforts, but underscored how widespread and entrenched the problem had become. The scale of the python invasion is staggering. These snakes have caused a dramatic 90% decline in small mammals such as rabbits and raccoons, upsetting the delicate balance of the Everglades food web. Without these mammals, predators higher up the chain lose essential prey, leading to cascading effects that ripple throughout the ecosystem. The drainage revealed that the python issue is not just a visible nuisance, but a deep, systemic threat hiding right beneath our feet. What's particularly unsettling is that pythons are not merely transient swimmers passing through. They are embedding themselves in burrows and tunnels, making their homes literally underfoot in areas frequented by humans. Their silent presence represents both an environmental and safety concern, reminding us how invasive species can profoundly alter habitats from the shadows. The revealed dens paint a sobering picture of how invasive apex predators adapt and thrive in altered habitats. Control teams have been prompted by these findings to reconsider removal measures and thus not only focus on surface hunting, but also track the hidden python refuges underground. The more the scientists learn about these secretive refuges of pythons, the more they will be able to remove them effectively and prevent the extinction of the native species. However, The more scientists know, the more obvious it becomes that the eradication process would take years of continuous effort and creativity. The secretive dens are also an indication of the aforementioned ecosystem restoration challenges. Restoring water flow and habitat areas may bring about the snakes unintentionally, and thus create both chances and problems. Reduction of water can lead to the detection and removal of pythons, but at the same time, it would cause stress to other native species and lead to an ecological imbalance. This complicated situation underlines the difficulties in controlling invasive species in a sensitive environment. The python burrows in the Everglades that keep their host dry through the wet and dry cycles may help the species withstand the removal effort. This resistance is similar to the adaptability that has made Burmese pythons such an effective invader. The understanding of their underground behavior gives us a clue about the perseverance of invasive species and their desperate attempts to live. Nevertheless, the unearthing of these hidden pythons did bring some light. The removal teams were very thankful for being able to sort out the snakes that otherwise would have remained undetected. It meant a very real advancement in the long struggle to make the Everglades safe for the indigenous wildlife. But it is still a haunting reality that the battle is far from over below the receding water. From the shadowy world of python burrows, the scene shifts to a different form of upheaval happening right above the mud, where predators converge in overcrowded battlegrounds fueled by shrinking water. Predator pits and ecosystem chaos. As water levels dwindle in drained wetlands, an extraordinary and chaotic phenomenon emerges: predator pits. These pits form when vast areas of water retract into just 1 or 2 deep holes, leaving hundreds of predators crammed into remarkably small spaces. In the Everglades, biologists have observed these crowded zones becoming temporary battlefields where territorial alligators snap and fight over dwindling prey. What normally remains hidden underwater now erupts into a vivid spectacle of competition and survival. Imagine hundreds of alligators squeezed into a space no larger than a swimming pool, each vying for dominance and access to thousands of stranded fish trapped alongside them. The usual quiet of the swamp gives way to aggressive displays and snapping jaws. This congregation creates a frenzy that benefits the gators with an easy buffet, but also heightens stress and conflict among individuals competing for limited resources. Such predator pits are not just about alligators. Birds like wood storks and great egrets flock from miles around to exploit this sudden abundance of food. The skies buzz with scavengers descending on the messy feast below. This convergence brings together a variety of species, turning the pit into a hub of frenzied activity and brief ecological abundance amid environmental hardship. Biologists seizing this rare chance noted territorial behaviors usually invisible beneath the water's surface. Observing these dynamics offers valuable insights into predator interactions, feeding habits, and population health, information often concealed by the swamp's murky depths. Yet, despite this fascinating natural drama, the underlying reason for these pits is cause for concern. The creation of predator pits underscores just how dramatically altered the wetland environment has become. Shrinking water confines animals to smaller and smaller refuges, increasing vulnerability and stress across the ecosystem. Such overcrowding can exacerbate disease transmission, injuries, and mortality rates, threatening long-term population stability. It's a sharp reminder that habitat loss isn't just about space, but about survival conditions. Beyond biological consequences, these crowded refuges can also shift predator-prey dynamics in unanticipated ways. With so many predators in one spot, prey species face intensified pressure, possibly accelerating declines in some populations. Conversely, predators forced into close quarters may also compete fiercely, limiting their numbers. This complex interplay alters the balance and resilience of the entire food web. While the predator pit functions as a dramatic survival hotspot, it masks a more insidious danger buried beneath the mud: chemical threats quietly undermining the health of the wetland. The interplay between natural behaviors and human legacy pollution makes these ecosystems uniquely fragile. To fully grasp the state of the Everglades, we must look beyond the visible chaos and into the silent poisons beneath. Understanding predator pits helps transform moments of crisis into opportunities for scientific learning and management, but it also presses home the urgency of restoring habitat connectivity and water quality. The Everglades predators may get a feast now, but the future of their homes depends on healing a wounded ecosystem. Just as the predators seize their chance in these shrinking waters, beneath their feet lies a toxic threat as old as the land itself, waiting to emerge every time the swamp dries. Toxic mud and chemical threats. While the visible drama of predators and invasive species captures attention, a silent and far more insidious danger lies buried in the mud beneath the Everglades. When wetlands are drained, the exposed soil, once submerged for years, suddenly interacts with air, triggering chemical reactions that release trapped toxins. One of the most alarming of these is phosphorus, a nutrient that, in excess, fuels harmful algal blooms and depletes oxygen in waterways. This hidden pollution threatens both ecological health and human communities downstream. Phosphorus largely originates from fertilizer runoff used on extensive agricultural lands, particularly sugar farms surrounding the wetlands. These farms have loaded the water and sediment with nutrients that normal wetland plants partially absorb. However, when the soil dries during drawdowns, stored phosphorus can leach back into the water once reflooded or spread downstream. This cyclical release undermines the goals of restoration projects and can spark rapid algae growth, creating toxic red tides and blue-green algal blooms. Such blooms are no trivial nuisance. They produce toxins harmful to animals and humans, causing illnesses and slaying fish en masse by suffocating them in oxygen-starved waters. After large drainage or dewatering efforts, fish slays have occurred by the hundreds of thousands in affected waterways, a striking demonstration of the chemical imbalance triggered beneath the surface. These episodes stain the ecosystem with death and highlight how interconnected water quality and wildlife survival truly are. A particularly severe example came in 2021, when a catastrophic release of 215 million gallons of contaminated water at Piney Point flooded into nearby ecosystems. Loaded with nutrients and pollutants, the outflow ignited a months-long red tide that devastated marine life and disrupted local economies. When biologists returned to the drained sites, they found vast wastelands of dead shells, poisoned mud, and a landscape struggling to recover. The incident emphasized how legacy pollution could haunt restoration efforts for decades. The mud is not the only source of phosphorus, but rather it is a chemical that is of concern. The drained wetlands showed the presence of invasive apple snails, and those cannot be considered harmless at all. The large snails eat up all the aquatic plants, and, in addition, they also carry a virus known as rat lungworm, which is very dangerous to humans. The large number of their pink egg clusters was discovered during the drainings attached to the dead plant stems, and this indicates how widespread and how strong this invader has become. Controlling these snails is a really hard task. These snails enjoy being in disturbed areas, and they multiply and spread quickly, which sometimes puts them in protected areas that were previously thought to be safe from invasion. The density and reproductive capacity of these snails make removal efforts very difficult, and the parasites add to the difficulties in managing practices. The war over apple snails is one of the many battles with which the Everglades have to cope to keep invasive species from taking over further. The unearthing of chemical and biological challenges through drainage illustrates an ecosystem picture that is stressed out for various reasons. Pollution and toxic blooms are linked, and invading species take the initiative by changing the character of the habitat. However, amid all these problems, scientists have also revealed some surprising signs of resilience that are surprising. It appears that nature still has the keys to regeneration. It is a matter of providing the right conditions. The hidden chemical threats in the mud need to be understood and mitigated for long-term recovery to be achieved. If these silent poisons are not dealt with, then the restoration attempts will be repeated over and over again due to the negative impact on water quality. The fate of the Everglades is dependent not only on water flows, but also on the careful management of what is under the soil and sediment, waiting to be released. With this chemical challenge looming, hope comes from slow but steady progress in restoring balance, an encouraging sign that even a battered ecosystem can rally with proper care. Signs of recovery and hope. Despite the heavy toll of invasive species, pollution, and habitat loss, recent restoration efforts in the Everglades have begun to show promising signs of recovery. In 2023, scientists reported breakthroughs from critical restoration sites where controlled drawdowns, carefully lowering water levels to mimic natural dry seasons, helped reduce invasive plant cover by nearly 40%. This approach not only disrupts non-native species, but also revitalizes native vegetation adapted to periodic drying. The success hinges on giving the swamp a chance to breathe. Allowing the mud to dry out under the Florida sun breaks down suffocating organic layers and stresses invasive fish. Once this pressure is lifted, native plants often surprise researchers by returning naturally from ancient seed banks buried deep within the soil. No replanting is necessary in some areas, as if the swamp had been quietly waiting for restoration all along. Encouragingly, the resurgence of native plant life triggers a broader revival of animal communities. Tiny creatures like crayfish and grass shrimp, often overlooked, have been seen recolonizing restored habitats. These small but vital organisms form the base of the food web, supporting an entire cascade of larger predators, including birds and alligators. Their return signals restored ecosystem function and a healthier, more balanced river of grass. These gains represent a rare but meaningful victory in a landscape marked by centuries of human impact. Controlled drawdowns, once considered risky, are now a key management tool for promoting ecological resilience. By simulating the natural ebb and flow of water, scientists are helping the Everglades renew itself in ways that simple flooding or refilling cannot achieve. The early returns also stress the importance of ongoing monitoring and strategic water management. Restoration is not a one-time fix, but a continuous process requiring patience, funding, and political will. Each successful drawdown builds momentum, offering lessons on how to balance human needs with nature's rhythms. The fight against invasives, toxic sediments, and disrupted hydrology remains daunting, but these positive signs remind us that thoughtful intervention can yield real change. The Everglades refuses to give up, showing resilience that can inspire hope and action. It highlights the crucial role of science and management working hand in hand. Moreover, these efforts underscore that the path to recovery involves looking beneath the water's surface, literally and figuratively. It's about understanding hidden threats and buried legacies just as much as visible wildlife populations. Only by addressing these unseen factors can restoration sustain lasting progress. As restoration projects advance, the Everglades offers a powerful example of how damaged ecosystems can heal when given time and care. This hopeful turnaround ignites optimism, but also calls for commitment to keep supporting this delicate environment. With signs of life returning, we face a choice: continue the slow recovery or risk losing the gains to neglect and invasion. Managing the future of the Everglades. The future of the Everglades hinges on our ability to combine knowledge, technology, and dedicated management to protect one of the planet's most complex ecosystems. Scientists are increasingly focused on developing sophisticated maps that show where invasive species, like Burmese pythons and armored catfish, hide when water levels are low. These tools help managers target removal efforts more precisely and reduce the ecological damage that otherwise goes unnoticed. This tactical approach marks a significant shift from broad strokes to nuanced strategies. Water management remains at the heart of restoration efforts. Finding a balance between human needs and the natural rhythms of the Everglades is an ongoing challenge. Every canal cleaned, every levee repaired, or flood-controlled risks disrupting fragile habitats if done without careful planning. Researchers are working to understand how to move water through the state more naturally, avoiding sudden drawdowns that cause massive fish slays and expose hidden invaders. These efforts are slow and costly, involving billions of dollars and requiring persistent political will. Yet the complexity and scale of the project reflect the immense value and vulnerability of the Everglades. This is habitat restoration at an unprecedented scale, where small mistakes can have major consequences, but successful interventions offer hope that resilience is possible. The ecosystem asks for long-term commitment rather than quick fixes. The multi-layered challenges also highlight the importance of adaptive management, learning from each drainage and restoration action to improve future approaches. Scientists have gained invaluable insights by directly observing the results of drawdowns, from predator pits to toxin releases. These lessons help refine methods, reduce unintended harm, and accelerate progress, proving how essential ongoing research is to the swamp's survival. Public awareness and support play an equally crucial role. The Everglades is not just a distant wilderness. It's a vital living system that provides drinking water, controls floods, supports tourism, and sustains rich biodiversity. Engaging the public with the ongoing realities and challenges helps build momentum for policies and funding. It reminds us all that what happens here affects millions of people. The battle against invasive species like the Burmese python and the armored catfish is still to be fought on the front line. However, the application of new methods in tracking, trapping, and mapping is the source of growing optimism. Similarly, controlling water flow to imitate the natural cycles can cause the native flora and fauna to recover, thus making the ecosystem less prone to invasions and pollution. This holistic method is like bringing science, technology, and conservation together in a never-before-seen manner. The Everglades, despite having undergone centuries of human activities, has been very robust and adaptable. It has manifested an extreme will to live, but the living thing is conditional on our allowing the natural processes to take over. Restoration is a two-way collaboration of man and nature, retreating from past mistakes while guiding recovery. It takes humility, patience, and unceasing effort. Whenever the swamp is drained for maintenance or research purposes, we always expose some new secrets, some frightening, others heartening. These discoveries reveal to us more clearly what to do, what not to do, and what still needs to be done. They convert the theoretical restoration projects into the real-life battles and victories in mud and water, thereby highlighting the swamp's intricacy and endurance. The hidden world beneath Florida's drained wetlands reveals a landscape filled with challenges, from invasive monsters to toxic mud, but also glimmers of hope. Restoration is complex and ongoing, demanding science, strategy, and patience. If this dive into the Everglades opened your eyes, like and subscribe for more explorations into the wild and wonderful corners of our world, and stay with us by watching the next story waiting on your screen.